There we go. All right. Is that what we wanted? Shalom, everyone. My co-host. Shalom and welcome. We're trying to get everything going and started. Let me see here. All right. All right. Shalom and welcome, everyone. We are trying to get this started and having some little bit of technical difficulties and just on the phone as well. So tonight we're going to go over again the Prunella vulgaris, a medical herb, and it is very good for what ails you, right? So a lot of these things that we're running into is what we're trying to find is what helps our body. There we go. And what can cure these problems with our body. And as we know, there's many things going on that deter our body from having a full potential of what it's supposed to be. Now, I believe we'd went over this, but I don't think we recorded and put it all out. So we're going to do it right here, right now. In just a few minutes, the Prunella vulgaris is a herb native to the Europe, Asian, African, and North America. It is common in most temperature climates. It was introduced to many countries in the 1800s and has become invasive in the Pacific Islands, including Australia, New Zealand, and Hawaii. Also in Ireland, right? So a lot of things of what we find is these things have been around for years, for thousands of years is what's funny about it, right? But yet we don't know about them, which is quite amazing. Why do we not know about this nice, pretty little plant that grows around a lot of people, and it can be very, very helpful. So with all that being said, let's go over a few things and what it looks like. Prunella helps prevent complications associated with diabetes, a disease marked by high blood pressure levels. So there's a lot of people, what's funny about that, there's a lot of people that have this or they're borderline this, and they ask for things to help them out, but then they don't want to take it, right? They don't want to have what is, right here in front of us, if you will, to take and to use. So it's amazing when we have these things. It's kind of like the dandelions, right? Everybody wants to destroy them and get rid of them, but they're right there growing in your yard where you can use them for yourself. You can make teas and, things with them. Certain compounds in this may have anti-cancer effects. Specific carbohydrates in the plant have been shown to induce cancer cell death and prevent tumor growth in test tube studies. Now, with all that being said, we know that there's things out here that scientific studies, Chinese studies, Japanese studies, Mexican studies of what all can destroy these. Now, there is different types of cancers, right? So don't put all your hopes on one thing and take one thing like this and say it didn't work, because there's various different types of cancers, and you have to know the cell, you have to know colon, liver, brain, tumors, there's all kinds of different things. So what I'm saying is, of course, pray about it, be led about it, but you also have to be wise about it. He said, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And notice he says, my people, not the world, right? So a lot of times what we find here is we run into a knowledge problem. A lot of things, why do we go to the doctor in the first place? We don't have the knowledge, right? Why do we go somewhere? Because we don't know how to sew our hand back up, or we don't know how to sew it back together, or we don't have that readily available. And by the time you went to Walmart, got some thread and tried to sew yourself up, you might bleed to death, right? So we have to understand of what's really going on and what is good for us and what helps, right? So if we take certain things, it's not gonna work, right? If you take maybe ginger, or or take a tea for your toothache, it may not help. But if you take the right things, then obviously it's going to help. But if there's a cracked tooth or something of that nature, then obviously you're going to need a dentist or somebody to remove that tooth, or somebody that can repair that tooth, right? This is somebody a while back asked me, because a lot of times they say there is no cure for herpes, right? There is no cure for these things. Well, science actually says a little bit different in some cases, right? Now, we don't know. I don't know. I don't know your body. I don't know. Yahweh does, right? So he has made these things. I find this more amazing that he has made these things to help us, that we can take to combat all these other things, right? This is another one. It may help treat herpes or prevent diabetic complications. So we don't know, and we really don't have a whole lot to go off of unless we have these studies, right? So as a body, the biggest thing I find, I was just saying it today, if we had the congregation, if we had the community, if we had the way it should be, we're all believers, and we have so-called nurses, doctors, all this knowledge within our community, if you will, then there would be no real need for the other. And I think that's why a lot of people are trying to do the community thing. They want to live that way, but you got to love, you got to do the things correct, right? You got to have Yahweh first, and then men, instead of the doctors in charge or the lawyers in charge and all that. So a lot of times people get everything so bent out of shape. A lot of people suffer because of the order of it. Same thing here, right? We just need more people to try these things and get back and say, hey, this worked or it didn't. Hey, this helped this. And if we can compile a list, I mean, come on, we have the internet, right? We're on YouTube Live. We have Facebook. We have all these things. Why can we not compile a list of, I am diabetic, I'm borderline diabetic, I have this, I have that, someone that has herpes, somebody that has any of these things could try it and say, look, it didn't help a bit, or we got 3 out of 5 that it helped with their situations. And you don't have to be, you don't have to put it on the list of what you had, especially herpes or something, but you can, if we could compile these things and have our own useful studies, wouldn't that be awesome? Anyway, some claim it can help protect against viruses, infections, and chronic diseases, including diabetes and cancer. However, all research, or nearly all research on it, has been limited to animals and test tube studies. Now, we say this, but you can look up different studies, especially Chinese, Eastern world type things too, right? But again, we have to do the research. You have to do the research. You have to know what's best for you and what will work for you and what is best overall, right? So a lot of this, again, is studying it. And like anything else, how do we win? How, if you're going to play volleyball, how do you get good at volleyball? You keep trying. And then eventually you realize, I hate volleyball, I love it. Somebody spiked me in the face 5 times, and I don't really like this game. I don't want to play no more. Or, gee, I've spiked the ball 5 times. I really like this game. We know this in life, right? We learn this as children. You're either good at it, you're bad at it, or somewhere in between. But if you quit, you'll never be any better at it, right? So the same thing, and people say, well, this and this don't go together, the Bible and this, that. I would submit they go absolutely together. Whatever helps heal. The Essenes was known as healers. The people in the Dead Sea Scrolls known as healers, right? So there's nothing wrong with healing. There's nothing wrong with, it doesn't say you can only heal by prayer. We heal any way we possibly can. And I think anybody that is sick and dying and in trouble in the hospital would agree with that. Now, don't go into the dark side, right? Don't go into anything. You have to be careful what you say anymore, because if you say anything that, people breaking out sage and doing all kinds of weird things with it. But sage is not nothing wrong itself. It's what people do with it, right? It's all in what you do with this. If you turn this into some terrible broom witch thing, then that's exactly what you're going to have. There's no sense of denying. But if you do what the creator created this for, right? The same thing with man. The same thing with men. If men would eat and live the way that they were supposed to live, and we would ever got introduced to all this garbage and pesticides and Roundup and all that junk, it don't help, does it? Is the food better? Is the food cleaner? Is it really a good thing that you have no dandelions in your front yard? No, it's not, because that is medicine and food and healing properties. So if anything, I would just submit that's of the enemy. Let's get Roundup to get rid of what they call weeds. And right here, we're finding out what a lot of people call weeds is actually healing herbs. So there's the picture. There's what it looks like. And some of this stuff, I'm telling you, when I walk through, especially in spring, it's like, what is that? What is that? What is that? It's like, especially on this side now, it's like, I'm thinking we could probably munch on some of that. I'm thinking we could probably try that, and especially turn it into a tea or something. But again, this is mainly for people that have these problems or that have something wrong. But I wouldn't put it past taking something like this before you have to take insulin, before you're diagnosed with diabetes, before you're diagnosed with some type of illness or disease, right? These are also pre before you're sick. I'll just make it as simple as possible. This is before you're sick stuff. Before you get the doctor sitting in the chair and you're sitting in the chair and crying, if we could do what the scripture says and raise and teach to believe and to go into what we're supposed to do, right? I don't think it says teach them diligently. I don't think it limits a whole lot to that. It says teach them diligently. Of course, it's the scriptures, but if we look into things, do we not see healing herbs in scriptures? Do we not see, is there any balm of Gilead? Do we not see that he rubbed even mud on the man's eyes, that he spit on that? That, a lot of these things could be various different things that we see today. The Damascus clay, I might be murdering some of these names and stuff, but could it be these things that we know are healing property, that we know are known as healing herbs across the world? This ain't just, you talk to people about this kind of stuff and they look at you funny and look at you crossways and what you talking about? What is that? Well, if that worked, that's one of the biggest things. If that worked, everybody would take it, right? If that worked right, then people would take it and everybody would have it. But if that's true, then we wouldn't have hospitals, right? If that was true, we wouldn't have many of these problems that we end up encountering. And, the people in the hospitals and in these places and having all these problems wouldn't have all the particular problems that they have, because this would be curing them, right? This would be helping them out. This would be helping them do what needs to be done. So to me, it's just easy to see and to know that this can help someone out. And that's what this is all about, right? This is all about the healing properties, and having people get up that hasn't walked, or having people get off of the insulin, or having people never go on the insulin, right? To have these things and these attributes that is from the creator, right? This is nothing that I went and I can boast on, or anything that I can, say I did anything other than maybe plant the seed and water it. But that's across the board, that's all we can do really anyway, right? And that's with real life or this biblical. Any way you look at it, all we can do is plant the seed, water it. If it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But we do our diligence, right? And the same thing with these as well, along that line. You can buy these as seeds and you can plant them yourself. And I would recommend, of course, if you know that this is a problem, or someone in your family or somebody that it could be a long-term thing, that why can't we plant these? We love plants. A lot of the ladies love plants, right? They love to plant these things, and why not have something that would help? And who knows the limits to this? Who knows what it can really do unless we try? And again, do your diligence, do your blood work, get with your doctors, do all that part of it. But this is also, as we see here, known as a heal-all due to its traditional use in healing wounds, throat infections, and several other ailments. So especially this time of year, when we're running around back and forth and we get this cough and there's all this thing going on, maybe this can help that as well. So again, I say maybe, right? I don't know. I'm not a PhD or certified herbalist. People have said I should, but we all have our hand in so many different things. To me, it's just something that we've come across because we kind of had to. I don't like being disposed to one doctor or one person saying this is the only way and this is the only way it's going to work. Because if you're not careful, I believe that's giving them way too much power. That's giving them way too much that, that's not my life in my hands. My hands, in a way, what I'm trying to say is your life is in your hands to a point, right? Because if you can commit suicide and you can do that, then that's, I think we see that with Judas and others but at the same time, you have the responsibility. This is a gift, this is a gift. And a lot of people don't realize that until they're in the hospital, until they're about lost their gift or have lost their gift. And they come back and they realize, wow, I'm only 34. I'm only this old. I'm only that. And it doesn't matter the age particularly, because it's still a gift, right? It doesn't matter the age. I know people in their 80s pushing 90. I know people 90 that they don't want to go tomorrow, right? They're not ready. So with that all being said, to use that gift wisely, but if it's used correctly before 70, 80, 90, it probably will be a better body, a better, if nothing else, a light into the world and a lamp into the world that we're supposed to be. I've got a few more minutes. The possible health benefits of this plant are attributed to the several compounds, include the flavonoids, the tannins, the ursolithic, the rosmotic, and olenic acids, which have an anti-inflammatory and antitoxin properties. So again, many of these that we see, many of these we talk about have these same things, which is amazing. A lot of these plants, herbs, roots, trees, whatever they may be, bark, have this anti-inflammatory, antitoxic properties. So there's something that gets into our body, diesel smoke, all the things that are put out into the air, car fumes, all these things. If you're in the wrong freight, hairspray, right? All these different things that are getting into our body one way or another. And with that going on, we need these anti-inflammatory, antitoxic properties to get those things out of our body, right? To get rid of these things. So specifically, these compounds help prevent complications associated with diabetes, protect against herpes, and again, anti-cancer. And that's what it says. I know people get upset and say things to me, you can't say that. This is what it says. And if we have studies, I would check more into the study of what that is and what it's saying. And I don't want to lead anybody wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, I'm just reading the reports and going with what we have. And I would suggest that you do the same, study it, and Again, cancer is a terrible thing. Cancer, uh, I understand people get emotional and upset and say all kinds of things when they find out they have it or their mom has it. I understand that totally. But on the same thing, there is scientific evidence of some of these things and combining them. I know a guy that lived 20 years after they said he was going to die of cancer. Well, actually, I know his son, right? So, but I know his son who have combined about 10 to 12 different herbs and lived 20 years. And in his obituary, he never died of cancer. He died because they think he was 91 or something, which was other complications. But, 20 years later that he took these herbs and he combined them, so he reversed what had happened. So facts are facts and they are what they are. I'm not saying that happens with everybody. Of course, I believe being a believer, believing in Yeshua, praying, fasting, but the combination of all this is unstoppable, right? I mean, I think we could all agree with that. That the combination of those are unstoppable, and we know people who have lived through it. But again, I also warn you, I hate to sound so sermonic tonight, but I would also warn you if you have are been healed or have been healed, I don't care if you take this or whatever you took, but you make a vow to the Creator. Don't lose your vow. Don't go back on your vow, right? So don't put all your herbal eggs in the basket is what I'm trying to say, because I know people that think this was the healing thing and this will keep them. And sometimes later, you have to give all the due to the Creator. It's all Elohim, it's all praises to Him. We're not going to praise a plant, we're going to worship in plants. So don't get me wrong. It's all praise to Him, and this is all duly praise to Him for making this. And that's what I'm trying to get. It's amazing that this little green plant has so much potential that forget Cheerios. I mean, let's try some of this in our salad. Let's try some of this, especially if you have these things that ail you. So get and go on here. These again are also sold in the pill form, the liquid extract, and well as in balms. That thing we talk about a lot. Is there any balm? Is there any ointment? Is there any balm of Gilead? And I'm still searching that out as well of what that was made of. A lot of people think it's frankincense, myrrh, and a couple other of these herbs mixed together. We can't really definitely know until we put it all together, but all these matter, right? So you can also find these online, or you can do what I do. And like I like to show everybody, get you a big old bag of these Cheerios, right? And this I got off of eBay. It's called Royal King. This is actually from China. And this is enough, usually probably almost a year supply to make the teas and to make the stuff. It looks like one of them, what do you call it? One of them guys walk through the cornfield, put it in your mouth. But that's what it looks like up close. There's a whole bag of it. And again, we don't just, try to pawn this off on people. I've been ordering these to try to help people out and help us out and make the teas and make the stuff out of it. Again, you can order it like this. I personally believe in the truest form I can find in the powders. Again, you can always get this. These are the easiest. The tincture, the liquid form are the easiest by far. You spin the little top, put it in your mouth, drink it. But again, it's got some have alcohol, so you have to be careful. Some have water. Some have 50% water. So you're getting, a bottle of water. So you have to be careful with that. But with these things here, truest form, you can see it. It matches to the picture. Of course, it's dried, so it's not, the colorful, but it's dried. You can take this and you can either just mix it up and put it in your tea, or just throw a couple of these into some tea or your smoothie or whatever that you prefer, and then try it. But again, always try this start out small. Start out. Don't do what some people take a whole handful of these and make a thing of tea, and then they got a funny feeling later. If you would, please, if you're going to try it, always consult your doctor, always consult your blood work, always, especially diabetes, especially blood work. If your blood work's up and down and you're about to pass out or you have low platelets, any of those things, consult, make sure, all that, right? Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. But start out with just a little bit, probably just that in there, and make you a little tea and sip on it a little bit and make sure you don't have nothing. You can also take it and rub it on your skin. The best way, I would say, again, I'm not a doctor, if I rub this on my skin and I wait an hour or two and there's nothing on my skin, if there's something on my skin, obviously I'm allergic to it, right? So you might want to try that as well before you go eat the thing. I'm just funny that way. I'll put stuff in my mouth and chew on it and all that. But some of these things are also, I think it's the Boswell and something that's supposed to be good for your breath and your teeth and all that. So, try it and see if you like it. And without anything else of questions or comments, then we will close it down and go to prayer.
Yeah, I see. So it's the Vulgaris, Prunella Vulgaris. Okay. So it has a lot of repeated things that we, on the I guess they're very common in other things as well, and other herbs. And so as you mentioned, Gregor is so they're all over the place. They're stubborn to to die. They're stubborn
Right.
against and they go on and go on. So like many of the stuff that grow in between the cracks of the backyard there, I see, and then they're good medicine, you know,
Right.
and so on and so on. So they're all over the place. It's just for us to be wise, but the